Let me start with the country's graduation to investment grade status. The recent upgrades in the Philippine economic and credit rating did not come from thin air. It's a lot of hard work put in there. And it rests on some very critical factors. First, the country's economy is sustainably strong. I think we should go to the next slide. Sustainably strong and resilient. Second, next slide. The national government's fiscal management has greatly improved. Monetary policy is increasingly prudent. And the financial sector is accelerating its development. Fourth, the country's external position is very robust, and we have been implementing structural reforms that have boosted the growth the growth of the economy. These gains have been coupled with good governance. Sovereign credit highlights. First, that was the one. This is the one. Investment grade status, we got that in 2013. And we got that in 2013, and we further got an upgrade, a step above the minimum investment grade in 2014 for Moody's and S&P, and we're still waiting for Fitch to do the same. But based on, if you look at credit default swaps, our premiums are much lower than even Malaysia, and we think that we are underrated by 2 steps based on credit default swaps. I explained it a while ago. Economic growth in the Philippines is one of the, from a seller-dweller way back in the 90s and 80s. The growth rate has gone up. The average growth rate for the last 10 years is last 5 years is 6.3%. It's the highest in ASEAN. And the second highest in Asia, if you look at only the middle-income economies. Of course, there are smaller countries with higher growth rates, but they're starting from a slower base. Growth is set to continue. We are expecting the Philippine government is expecting a growth of 7 to 8% for the next 2 years. Analysts point to numbers closer to 7%. And growth is broad-based with industry and services contributing significantly, and agriculture has been badly affected by typhoons, however. And we are trying to look into ways to reduce the volatility of agriculture through financial instruments. Fixed investment is the banner sector, with private consumption providing a solid, almost stationary growth rate of 5 to 6%. Public finances have improved significantly. Revenue effort is going up from 14% to about 15%. 14% 10 years ago. It's now 15%. And tax revenues growing at faster rate than GDP. It's growing at double-digit rates. With the customs collections growing 20% plus last year. Also, debt has been going down significantly from 60 to 70% of GDP 10 years ago. It's now gone down to 45% last year. And but if you look at general government debt, it's much lower at about 35%, and better than many of our peers in ASEAN. The deficit has also gone down from 3% to 4%, when we did stimulus spending during the global financial crisis, it has gone down to 0.6% last year. Also, the share of external debt to NT debt has gone down to 36%. Most of our debts are now local in nature, without the exchange risk. And the maturities of local debt have also got lengthened from about 5 years maturity 10 years ago. Now it's up to 10 years. And we are now selling even 20-year bonds, 25-year bonds. Also, for long-term, external debt, the maturity is very long, 22 years for public debt, and most of these are ODAs, so there's not much risk there. Monetary policy has been very prudent. We have our inflation rate has ranged from 3 to 5% during the last 5 years, and the NPL ratio has gone down to 1.8%. That's the latest figure as of March. Also, because of the robust growth in deposits, growing 30% last year, the loans to deposit ratio is very low. They are never the risk that our banking system is going to explode is not there. As a matter of fact, many of our banks are growing fast and are very resilient. Oh, there are longer-term bonds are being floated in the market, so there's been a big increase in issuances, and also the maturity profile of local bonds is shifting toward long-term maturities. The NPLs, oh, this is the monetary. NPLs have come down to 1.8% from double-digit levels during the Asian crisis. Also, we don't see any overheating in the real estate market. The vacancy rates are low, especially for offices, 2%. Actually, if the vacancy rate goes below 10%, rent taxes start to rise. So we're trying to avoid that. Robust external position. This has been the linchpin of the economy. We have had an overall BOP surplus for 10, 11 years of the last 12 years. The external, the BOP went into deficit last year because of QE papers, but it hardly affected the exchange rate. Remittances, the reason for the robust BOP picture is due to remittances, which has been growing about 5% during the last 5 years. It has reached about 27 billion last year. And BPO revenues have been growing also almost 20% during the last 5 years. And it has reached about 17 billion. 17 to 18 billion last year. So our GIR has increased significantly. It's now at about the latest data is 10.5 months of imports of goods and services. That's one of the highest in Asia. Of course, Singapore is higher. But if you take the average for ASEAN, it's about 6 months of imports of goods and services. So we're higher than the ASEAN average. Infrastructure development, there are about 11 projects already being implemented with the estimated cost of $5 billion US. And there are about 50 more that are in the pipeline, which are in various stages of development. So during the next, if you take the 50 in the pipeline, that's about 10% of GDP. So if we are able to implement these projects, then there's additional 2% growth coming from infrastructure development. We have been sustaining economic growth through more investment in infrastructure, through prudent macroeconomic management, and good governance. We have been trying to reduce the corruption. We are trying to improve the corruption index. We are also trying to reduce the steps in getting licenses and getting businesses to operate. For instance, last week, 12 agencies signed a memorandum of understanding which cut down the steps in operating a business from 16 to 6, and the number of days from about 30 to about 8 days. So that's a big improvement. We're also trying to build out many of the infrastructure projects through PPP. And of course, the rural projects in rural infrastructure have to be implemented to the national government, which means that it has to be funded by the government. So this one is the real estate sector in the economy. It shows that growth in value added in real estate has been faster than GDP growth in some instances, but over the long run they will balance out. Oh, these are the regions, the cities that have been identified as very competitive by the National Competitiveness Council. They have identified certain cities and municipalities throughout the country that can be a good place to invest. And they have ranked them from 1 to 10. Number 1, of course, is Makati, and for municipalities, the head people, RP is going to maintain its economic gains because the fundamentals are sound. The deficit is low and the fiscal space is extensive. We can actually could have spent more, 1.4% more last year, of GDP last year, but because of certain restrictions on the way we can use our savings, we had to cut down the deficit to 0.6%. But with the ruling from the Supreme Court giving us a little bit more leeway on the use of savings, I'm sure we will be closer to about 2% of GDP this year. Of course, the elections are coming, and this administration has to finish many of the projects that it wanted to implement. Good governance, we are trying to cut down the number of steps in getting licenses in various offices, and it would be good for the private sector to tell us which agencies are not doing their share. Of course, many of these steps is part of the performance indicator measures for each government agency. For instance, in the case of SEC, if with the reduction in the number of steps, they will be able to get a bigger performance-based bonus next year. Real estate is a important sector of a growing economy. For instance, the real estate sector, the growth of the real estate sector telegraphs 3 quarters ahead the growth rate for GDP, and it's very because of course before you can operate a business, you should set up your building. Before you can operate a factory, you need to set up the workplace and your warehouses. Okay, the Philippine economy is sound. All the indicators point to a very resilient economy. We have been ranked first by the Council of Development Governance. From number 7 last year, we shot up to number 1 as the most resilient emerging economy, primarily because of good macroeconomic fundamentals, and it's our duty to sustain those developments. And we have a long list of reforms about to be done. This is a different presentation. It's not actually the longer version of this presentation is given to you. This one is the shorter one. But the Philippines has moved from a stellar dweller to a top-ranked resilient economy. It's our duty to sustain its growth, to explore opportunities available to all of us, and make sure that the markets expand further. We are open to introducing new reforms. Just tell us which we have not really reformed, which sectors are still slow and considered as laggards, and of course, to all of you, let's participate in the growth of the Philippine economy. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.